An American news media and de facto propaganda ministry starved for distractions from the disastrous nature of the current administration and international affairs directly related to, got not one but two fresh boogeymen this weekend, both 18 years of age, both mentally deranged, both substantially disturbed, both with documented histories of red flags, and both of whom were somehow nevertheless missed by law enforcement, who supposedly is hell-bent for leather looking out for these things in the days of domestic extremism. I will mention neither of their names over the course of this missive, lest we give them any more credit for their infamy. But this predatory miscreant piece of shit that we're looking at now committed the mass shooting up in Buffalo, apparently motivated by white supremacy, which the current regime pushes as the leading threat to domestic security. Why, if we were to believe them, there was a guy like this around every fucking corner. A white guy full of rage, ready to kill people. Well, he fit the bill, but it must have come as quite a shock to their narrative later in the week when this elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, was shot up by someone who didn't fit any of the above categories. In fact, judging from the looks of this predatory miscreant piece of shit, he couldn't be further from the existing narrative. And of course, inconsistencies abound. We don't want to go down a conspiratorial rabbit hole or anything, but there are plenty of self-contradictory stories, problems with the official narrative, holes in the official story, but sometimes it comes down not to conspiracy, but just cowardice. You see, as it turns out, this group of airsoft LARPers, oh wait, we were supposed to take them seriously as legitimate law enforcement. You see, this is the Uvalde Police Department SWAT team. You see all that happy kit and all that sweet gear and all those fine weapons paid for by your fucking tax dollars? Yeah. Turns out none of them got to be used in the event of this crisis. A crisis that these weapons and this equipment was given to them specifically to handle. In fact, the only function that any of these things served was to not only prevent other law enforcement, but actual parents from intervening and possibly stopping a substantial portion of the back end of that body count. Yes, indeed, 2 mass shootings. It's almost as if they were looking for a distraction, but whatever from? Oh, maybe something like this. Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. I find it more than amusing that the same people who identify Elon Musk as a Bond villain don't see any problem with a man like this talking about ruling the world and how we must re-engineer society in the heavy German accent coming from a family who produced flamethrowers for the Third Reich. Nope, nothing Bond villain about this guy. Certainly not when he's coming up with quotes like this. The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. What was that third R word? Reset. A great reset, in fact, which was the name of his book. However, to mention the Great Reset just a couple of months ago would have gotten you kicked off of social media. You know, in the interest of preventing the spread of misinformation. And it gets even more sinister when this same fellow, in this heavy German accent, tells us that the problem that we have is not globalization. The problem is a lack of global governance. Well, preach on, mein Führer. Especially considering, speaking of the Great Reset, with a tight window based around a pandemic. And this organization right here about to sign a treaty that will actively be giving up American sovereignty in the event of another pandemic disease outbreak, no matter how infinitesimally small or insignificant in terms of serious health crisis. Now, this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, we celebrate and pray and show gratitude for the lives that were given with the intent of preserving our freedom, with souls much braver than any of us shall ever be, who spilled their blood and gave their lives on foreign soil to protect our freedom. I hope that one day we will find the spine and the stones to be worthy of that sacrifice. Because if things keep going the way that they are now, the only remnant that we will have of that freedom are ghosts. So in light of the possibility of having nothing but ghosts of freedom left, we had better give up our ghost and find our fucking spirit. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and nobody else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind, and they are guaranteed to choke you with a big, fat dose of blood, soul, and truth cock. Boys and girls, it's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Welcome back. Got to do a quick roll call here in a second. See who's got everybody on board. You see the change in surroundings. We're coming to you live from the depths of the BART bunker here in Spokane, Washington. Everybody up for the drum roll. Coming on, charging out of the starting gate with our bumper music, as always, Red Desert. Name of the track is Older, No Wiser, and it's totally suitable to my demeanor because every week I get a little bit older, and every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others, man. We got a lot of stuff to cover, man. It has been a hella busy week on the news front. A lot of really unusual stuff going on. A lot of predictable stuff going on, and a lot of predictable responses going on. Ah, look at that. Eugenics is indeed a slippery slope, and we will be discussing some of that coming up here in a minute. Brother Ryan on board early. We got Monty. We got, oh my goodness, look at this. Jen Scully Kaiser. Hopefully the old man is around as well. Bri, if you are there, or even if you're not, I'm going to show you some love, brother. I miss you more than you know. We need to get in touch soon and very soon. Glad to have you guys on board. One of the original Sinner Sisters, Emmy, on board. We have Roman and Carrie from opiumtales.com. Dr. Patrick Platzer on scene early, the man that made it possible for me to get through the end of my crane journey on a cane, made it possible for me to walk again. Brother Brett Bennett, who I just got to hang out with up in PDX a couple of weeks ago. Tim Buchanan on board early. We got all the usual suspects. Happy to see everybody. Brother Joel Allen Jackson. You know, we were just talking about you today, Joel. Me and Aaron were doing some provision shopping, and we were looking at air guns and talking about your skill at putting small game on the table and feeding yourself with nature's own harvest. Actually inspired me. I think I'm going to pick up an air gun or two for the BART bunker arsenal. George Williams, howdy Rev, howdy right back at you, George. Appreciate your participation on all of my threads and the forums this week. Always good to have you on board. Brother Aaron rocking out upstairs. Brother Aaron upstairs. Again, just wanted to clarify, you will note the change in surroundings from the previous number of weeks. We are coming at you live from the depths of the BART bunker, right back here in Spokane, Washington. I am back in my old home stomping grounds. We are on level 2, which we refer to as the command center. You will notice the signs and all the posters and stuff. You'll notice the AK and the 1911 posters. That is some old silkscreen work from my good friend Don Rock. You will know him from his old incarnation of product at Terror Worldwide, terrorworldwide.com. Some of the t-shirts, like the AK-47 with kid tested, mother approved, that was all Don's work. He's done a lot of work for a lot of bands, alternative music scene, and he's an icon in the hill country music scene because of all the work that he's done. He's also my good friend. He's done these for me, and one real huge masterpiece. It's a Muslim prayer wheel surrounded by Walter P38s. It's like 19 layers of silkscreen, and that adorns the wall upstairs here in the Bart Bunker. I've got some great people and some very gifted people, and it feels good. The sound is amazing today, Emmy. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I'm still checking to see which one of my microphones is actually, let me check this right here. USB PNP audio device. Okay, so I'm gonna, okay, I think it's the mic over here and not the one actually built into the camera. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know why it would be different, unless I've been really screwing up in the previous weeks, but I'm glad that J-Hole Dolphins and Reverend Bard. Anyone channeling the spirit of Dr. John Lilly. Oh man, Viva Referencia Obscura, Brother Ryan. Yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, just touch on that one real quick. Dr. John Lilly was a pioneer and researcher in the field of psychedelics many years ago, and his claim to fame, and in fact a really shitty movie got made about his experiments, a movie called Day of the Dolphin. It was terrible. I mean, just a terrible flick, and didn't really do justice to any of his experiments, but he did a lot of experimentation with ketamine primarily, and a number of other psychedelic drugs in an effort to be able to communicate with dolphins. Dude, you gotta admire the chutzpah on a guy like that, just to be able to, I mean, it's, I'm gonna go down a K-hole and fucking swim with the dolphins. I mean, dude, that's a hell of a thing to have on your resume, don't you think? I mean, when you look at all the other pioneers in the psychedelic movement, whether it's Huxley or Sasha Shulgin or Terrence McKenna or Timothy Leary, I mean, they all had their bright spots, but Lilly was the only one who was really willing to take it into some fucking nether regions of the psyche and communicate with other species. And of course, Ryan would know all about that, and that would be one of our coffee-fueled discussions for another day. Anyway, man, glad you guys are here early. I'm sporting the White Devil shirt today. If somebody can come up with where I got this thing, for Stoned Ape theory. If somebody can tell me where I got the White Devil t-shirt, you should probably patronize those guys. And you will probably know a little something about me that I make little or no bones about. Anyway, I figure if this is the label that they're going to hang on us, I'm going to wear it, and I'm going to wear it with a special kind of pride. Yeah. Anyway, let me see. Where was I? Yeah. So let me get the sponsor shout-outs out of the way today. Sorry, might have leaned a little bit too much on the liquid enthusiasm. We are sporting the Iron Infidel Battle Bottle today, which is containing the caffeinated lemonade and sweet tea aminos that keep me fueled for damn near everything, including the ever-popular Sunday sermon. But yeah, they've got a number of these battle bottles, and they're really cool, really well appointed. Again, they're not paid sponsors of the program, but I don't promote or shill for anything that I don't actually use. And I really it's a well-made, insulated bottle. It's like Takea or fucking Arctic quality insulated thermos bottle. Takes the standard Takea lids, and of course they have like 4 different decorative sleeves. I chose the one with the battle axes and the rune work on it. But these have a side pouch which you can stash a magazine in or two. If they're pistol magazines, stash a couple in there. It's actually a spot for your wallet and a spot for your phone. So when you go to the gym, instead of dragging a big fucking shoulder bag around, you can just grab hold of this paracord handle and you've got something with you that you can just carry around the gym, and you've got all your essential shit. So it's pretty cool, man. Pretty well appointed, and it's also useful on road trips, which, you know, I'm very fond of. Link for those of us who are... Brett, just go to ironinfidel.com. I don't have a link that I can punch up here on StreamYard, but you can go to ironinfidel.com and check that out. Stephanie. Steph, good to see you, honey. How are you? I just remember that drunk Hispanic stripper screaming Gringo Diablo at you while you were taking her out of the club in a wheelbarrow. Guessing that's not where the shirt came from, though. No, that's a good guess. Steph, I'm not going to put you out there on Front Street, Mama. Let's just say Stephanie and I have a lot of history, and we worked together in the biz back in the day, and there was an incident where we had to take a very unruly, drunken Latina out of there, and now that the statute of limitations has run out for anything that may or may not have happened in the alley behind the place, we had to go get her out of the dressing room, and we wanted to get her out of there without like drawing attention. So we went back there with a wheelbarrow and a tablecloth, and we folded and stuffed her drunk. She was covered in her own vomit, and she was not everyone's favorite person in the fucking club in the first place. Hashtag True Bart stories. Every now and then I get off on a tangent of one of these. So we stuffed her into the wheelbarrow. We covered her with the tablecloth, and, you know, again, she's already just like soaked in her own vomit, and it's a gruesome scene. And so we got to get her out, but we got to wash her off. So we took her out back in the alley behind the club, and this freezing cold water coming out of that guard, we just fired up the hose, and I may or may not have contributed some fluids to spraying her off. There may or may not have been golden showers involved. In any case, she woke up in the middle of the treatment and was screaming at me, Gringo Diablo, Gringo Diablo. Yes, I am the white devil. That's not where I got the shirt, though, Stephanie. Spot on. Glenn, good to see you, man. You want to talk about taking it back to the old school, man, like serious old neighborhood all the way back to elementary days, man. How you doing? Good to have you on board. So anyway, let me give a couple of sponsor shout-outs. I gave them a little props to the Battle Bottle guys. They are not a paid sponsor of the program, but I do want to take care of the guys that are and are really not just hardcore flagship sponsors of the program, but really, really good friends of mine. Talking first and foremost about one of my oldest and dearest friends, Roman, over at opiumtales.com. Roman, fired up here again. I've taken a lot of head trauma, and I cannot remember if you were back on Twitter or not. But you can check out opiumtales.com. They're the erotic pinups and portraits people. Roxy, Allie, bevy of just beautiful women over there that he gets to work with. And he does watercolor portraits and pinup type art with these with the aforementioned bevy of beautiful women. And he's got a blog, entirely testosterone driven commentary. And not yet. Waiting for Elon and to close the deal. All right, cool, fair enough. Yes, Roman, thank you for reminding me. I'm gonna pull a Tim Pool here and tell everybody who's watching on YouTube, I need you to smash that like button right now. Glenn is apparently watching on Facebook, according to the tracker over here. Anybody who's on YouTube right now, I need you to smash that like button. It will drive us up in the algorithm. Algorithm, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. But it'll push it, make it more accessible. And if you have time to hit that like button, you've got time to click on subscribe. Because the more people we can get subscription, the closer we can get to monetizing it. And at the very least, because YouTube isn't going to allow us to monetize like a lot of the stuff that we do, and that's totally all right, but at least it drives our follower count up. It helps us to, the more access we have, the more access we can gain. You feel that? Did Elon touch you? Oh my goodness, dude. Oh my goodness. That is yes. The hashtag is Elon touched me too. We got into that. Anyway, opiumtales.com. Go see Roman. Check out the artwork. Check out the testosterone-driven commentary. One of my oldest and dearest friends and a flagship sponsor of the program. And, of course, my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, from right here in the Spokane area. Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest. Period. End of statement. Done. Somebody else is going to raise their hand and go, yeah, but what about? No, go fuck yourself. You're wrong. Sit down, shut up. You're wrong. Hashtag sit down, shut up. You're wrong. Nordic Smoke, only legit barbecue. And you got to think, man, 18 years in Carolina, 26 years in Texas. I am not easily impressed by fucking barbecue. These guys are badasses. And aside from being good friends of mine, they have a phenomenal product. They've been featured on Guy Fieri's 3D. They came up here and did a slot on them. They got the Viking Longship, which is like a long smoker truck that they, Emmy, yeah, right, okay, honey, sorry you had to duck out early. All right, we'll catch you in a bit. The Viking Longship, the smoker truck, they set up at American Gun and Pawn right up here on Sprague. Every single Thursday, they start at 11 and they sell until they run out of product, and they usually run out very, very quickly. Now, driving down the lower end of Sprague, if you see a line around the block, normally it's a pill mill doctor, and people are on the nod waiting for their meds. If you see that same basic thing around American Gun and Pawn, because they're all standing in line around the block looking like they need a fix, well, in this particular case, they are waiting for barbecue. And trust me, the craving is... Okay, I can't lie and say the craving's like on that level. It's really not. But but for people who haven't been exposed to opiate addiction, yes, that is the closest they're gonna get. It's fantastic stuff, and they're fantastic people. And again, shout outs to Casey, who is a published author out of Latop Press, right here out of Spokane. Freaks of a Feather. It's a Marine combat vet's memoir, and it's getting like accolades from all over the place. One of the military publications recently called it the best memoir to come out of the Iraq War. Holy shit, that's high praise. He got to have dinner with Mad Dog Mattis, another Marine machine gunner out of the Pacific Northwest. Just high praise for Casey, and he's in law school right now as well. I think he's going to be as phenomenal an attorney as he is just a human being. I think it's going to be fantastic. And of course, we can't leave out Dusty, because Dusty is the pit fucking master when it comes to barbecue. They're out there in the Spangle area, but again, setting up every single Thursday. So go see them if you're in the Spokane area. They do have the sauces now in bottles to a point where they can ship them, and I'm going to get that contact information online as soon as I can, so you guys get to sample the sauces. But the sauces won't do it justice without actually being able to taste that smoke. So if you're in the Spokane area, man, make it happen. Yeah, right, I saw that, Brett. I saw a little autocorrect. But yeah, fine people, damn fine people. All right, guys, the very first one, and I do not have all of my sound effects because, again, I'm at the BART bunker, so we're running off the old Mac Pro Tower and not the traveling military laptop. In any case, I don't have access to all of my sound effects, so if some of the music isn't on point, some of the sound effects aren't on point today, like the applause that I normally lead in when we go to this segment, the ever-popular Ryan's Rabbit Hole. You can just imagine a thunderous round of applause, because normally that's where I would drop this in, but I'm on a different computer, and we don't get to do that. This week, again... Ryan is the minister of all things esoteric and obscure. One of the things that we bonded over is the fact that we are both repositories of all kinds of useless but fascinating information. And sometimes we take it philosophical, and sometimes we take it historical, and sometimes we take it conspiratorial. This week is going to be historical. And we're going pretty obscure on this one. Again, the whole point of the rabbit hole is we're going to plant that seed, and we are going to see how far you want to follow it down the rabbit hole. Now, we have often entertained the prospect of Adolf Hitler in hell. Not in and of itself, just for the sake of the German with the funny mustache being in hell, but here in this side, this world, here in Midgard, on this side of the veil, when you think about, it's like Bill Burr called him the Michael Jordan of evil, and that is the perception of the German with the funny mustache, and he has a body count, assuming you believe 100% of the stuff that goes into that, he has a body count of around 6 million. So you have to imagine Adolf Hitler in hell looking over at Stalin with a body count well in excess of 20 to 30 million, and looking at Mao with a potential body count up to 100 million, and pointing at those guys and going, I'm the bad guy! I am the bad guy! Yeah, poor Hitler. You know, those aren't two words that you would think would be strung together, but if Adolf is in hell and he's looking at the respective body counts, man, poor Adolf. Feel bad for the guy. Anyway, we have heard names like Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot. You know, there's any number of genocidal or mass murdering psychopaths in world history that that we have heard of, that are in common circulation. But Hong Xiuquan is probably not among them, at least for most people's idea. Hong Xiuquan is not even the 10th name, really, to come to mind in most cases. However, he was responsible for a little historical phenomenon called the Taiping Rebellion. Now, Hong, interesting how this works. Whenever a debate comes up about, you know, the murderousness of a particular religion, and people will always try to equate radical Islam with Christianity, because, and the first thing they always go, oh yeah, but Crusades, what about the Crusades? First of all, I didn't realize we were having this conversation in the 1400s, but okay. It's interesting because Hong Xiuquan is so little known that he would be the ideal reference for somebody who was trying to make that point to bring up, because in a primarily Buddhist and Confucianist culture, he had a series of apocalyptic fever dreams and shifted to Christianity. Again, I will let you guys go down that rabbit hole as far as you wish to take it. But he converted to Christianity. He came to power and proceeded to slaughter a shit like starting in the 1850s, the Taiping Kingdom of Heaven, Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, I think. But yeah, was slaughtering what he saw as fucking infidels. They attempted to seize the city that is now Beijing. Nanjing was seized, and a number of other Chinese cities that were, I mean, they were big then, you know, it's and still major to this day, but not on the same level, you know, because cultures evolve. In any case, he was a devout Christian who was slaughtering his own countrymen in the name of religion, putting to death the infidels. So again, when you think about historical mass murderers, now you have another name to add to your list. And for those of you that like to take the easy shot at Christianity, I'm going to urge you to shut the fuck up about the Crusades, because the Taiping Rebellion was, again, ran all the way through the 1860s. About the time of the American Civil War. So this is not that long ago in history. If you want to take a reference, stop pulling the Crusades out of your ass. Instead, pull out something really obscure, Hong Xiuquan, and then you seem 10 times as well read as you actually are, because Brother Ryan sent you down this particular rabbit hole. In any case, 1864. Hong met a very unfortunate end. Some people, the official story is that he ate wild vegetables and died of food poisoning. Now, I have never seen a case of food poisoning that went for 3 weeks without reprieve. I mean, unless you continue to eat the same wild vegetables for 3 weeks in a row after vomiting blood and shitting yourself stupid, like a muddy brown river every time you cop a squat position. I can't see the official story really being true. In fact, I think it's probably a lot more likely that he was killed by his own countrymen, that he was poisoned by his own trusted associates. But in any case, to the very end, he swore that God was going to come and protect his kingdom. Didn't work out that way. In fact, God couldn't even be bothered to save him from a runaway case of the shits or his own people poisoning. Anyway, Hong Jiquan and the Taiping Rebellion. That is Ryan's rabbit hole for the week. Follow it down as far as you are comfortable. Expand your base of knowledge of history and the attendant atrocities thereof. Speaking of historical atrocities, we are going to get into some shit today. Just with the events of the world and the events right here at home. Another little sip of liquid enthusiasm here. I'm going to check back and see if anybody else crawled on board during that rant. We got David McConnell on. Good to see you, David. Hopefully you were holding up well, my good friend. David Longstreth, cool. At some point, David, I'm going to try to squeeze in about 2 or 3 Sparkies. You missed it last week. It was runaway. Fuck you, Sparky. But I know that's your favorite tagline. So we're gonna see that. Oh fuck. No, I'm not gonna see what happened to the body. I want them to dig. I want them to dig and see what happened to the body. That's okay. So yes, I neglected to mention it. I could go back and mention it now, but I'm thinking, no, let them dig. Let them dig, because that's the interesting part of the story, all right? I want you guys to go down the rabbit hole and find out what happened to the body, okay? Do that. I promise you it will be worth the journey. I promise you. But I want you to do the digging. We're not just going to serve it up to you on a platter. Ryan, I'm trying to make them work for it, man. I'm trying to make them work for it. Anyway. Not bad for a 4 a.m. thought to you and Dennis. That is correct, man. That is correct. It's funny how these rabbit holes come sometimes because, again, like I talk to Ryan at least once a week, and usually like right after the sermon. He's kind of like my coach and mentor and dear friend on a whole lot of levels. But yeah, sometimes it's just random missives. We'll just be chatting with each other online, and he'll pull up some obscure fucking part of history that like me, him, Dennis and like 2 other people on the planet, have actually read about at some point, and we're like, okay, well, fuck it. There's our rabbit hole. Boom. And that'll usually evolve to, okay, well, that's connected to this. So if we're going to do that, then we got to connect it to this. And it just winds up evolving organically like that. But again, Ryan, my brother in every sense of the fucking word, we are bonded on that level, man. Right here, and here, and here. So I'm really thankful that you're part of my circle, bro. I'm really thankful that you're my brother. So thank you for being around, and thank you for another journey down the rabbit hole. Let's get into the first little one that I just want to tag on to, and we're not going to go too far down this one. A train. 4 days ago, there was a train close to the United States border. It was coming from Canada. It was en route to the United States that derailed. Some 43 to 47 cars, depending on what you count, you believe. But it derailed. What was it carrying? Well, what are we in crisis of right now? We have talked about this, the unusual things that are happening with regard to the food processing centers, the meat plants where they slaughter animals and other things. We've been down that, and of course the fact checkers are calling it an insane conspiracy theory and trying to minimize it and everything, but they still can't come up with a good explanation for 2 plane crashes into food processing plants in the span of 1 fucking week and the inordinate amount of accidents and unfortunate mishaps that are going on at these food processing. Well, the train derailment, as it turns out, what do you suppose it was carrying? I'll give you. You know what? I'll give you one. I'll give you two guesses. Two guesses. There you go, Aaron. Okay, fuck. Okay, Aaron. That wasn't fair. Yeah, it was carrying Timothy. Oh, love your posts and your show. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you for being on board, man. I believe what. I believe have you been watching Straight Up on Facebook, or did you check it out on BitChute? Did you check out the replay on BitChute? I'm wondering. Yeah, but I'm Timothy. Either way, glad to have you. Glad you're enjoying it. Let me jump back in. The train that derailed was carrying potash fertilizer. Okay. One of the crises that we are having, and one of the things that they're saying is going to exacerbate the upcoming and inevitable food shortages that we're all going to be facing here in the United States and abroad, is a shortage of fertilizer allegedly because of the crisis in Ukraine. Now we're having the mysterious accidents. Okay, so I looked at this derailment. You guys know where I'm at on the scale of conspiracy. Never chalk up to conspiracy what can easily be explained away by incompetence. Never chalk up to malice what can be easily explained away by stupidity or someone being asleep at the switch. I will not say, and I will not go so far as to say that there has been an inordinate amount. But somewhere, again, depending on which account you're looking at, there have been anywhere from 9 to 13 similar derailments with trains involved. Yes, on Facebook. Cool. Thank you, Timothy. A number of derailments, anywhere from 9 to 13, again, depending on which source you're looking at, involving trains whose primary cargo was some sort of fertilizer. Not necessarily potash, but there were a couple in Iowa where it was ammonium nitrate. And for those of you that know about ammonium nitrate, that could have been a hell of a lot worse than it was. But again, we're dealing with accidents of trains that are carrying fertilizer. Probably the only thing that could be more directly effective for people trying to control the food supply would be freight trains carrying, actual food. Big freight cars full of grain. Any of you guys out there I used to be a support driver for BNSF. Worked for a BNSF subcontractor as a support driver for the railroad. I've got a couple of friends out there that work for Uncle Pete, Union Pacific. They can tell you, man, a lot of those trains are set up to where the entire length of the train is just grain cars, right? They go to these granaries and they load up and then they go. There are other ones that are loaded with fertilizer, and those you've had from 9 to 13 derailments, depending on whose account you believe. Now, we're going to get into a little bit later. We're going to get into the difference. We're going to touch on Occam's razor. We're going to touch on how deep you're ready to go with regard to everything's a fucking conspiracy or everything is not necessarily a fucking conspiracy. But we're going to get into that a little more later. But I wanted to plant that seed so that we didn't forget it. And I'm going to move that down to the end of my bullet points here. And we're going to get into the next thing. The big tragedy. And again, I'm not going to say either one of their names over the course of this entire show. Over the course of this sermon, and I will try to avoid it in future sermons because I'm not going to contribute to the fame of these predatory miscreant scumbags. Now, of course, we are told by the current regime that the number one threat is white supremacy, so it figures that the Buffalo shooter would fit that narrative. He wandered in, he had published a whole lot. Now, and again, we touched on this last week. How come we can talk about the racial motivations of a crime when it's this scumbag walking into a primarily black neighborhood and shooting the place up? But we can't refer to a racial motivation when someone, because this guy did. He openly posted anti-black, anti-Semitic basically hated everybody but fucking white cisgendered males. He posted a lot of stuff like that on social media, on Reddit, other things. I mean, he posted a shit ton of that kind of material, so there's no fucking denying that there was a racial motivation behind the crime. However, going one further, red SUVs don't drive into Christmas parades by themselves. So that glaring media double standard, that glaring lack of proper framing, or deliberately improper framing, more to the point. G-Dub, glad you made it. I'm here. Now tell me why we have 200 loads of some nasty shit to haul to Maryland in the next 40 days. Any guesses? Oh man, yeah, rules are simple to shooters. White is white supremacy. If it's not white, it's the gun's fault. Yeah, that's pretty much what it boils down to, Dennis. You got it nailed. G-Dub, I want you to elaborate on that over here in the sidebar while I'm talking about some of this stuff. I definitely want you to elaborate over there, or if you don't feel like doing it over there, you can just send me a personal message later. And G-Dub, thanks again for all that you've done for getting the word out. First of all, for being out there doing the outlaw trucker thing and being on the road and getting the goods to market and experiencing all the shit firsthand. You're a pretty important voice right now to the program, because we want to know what's going on the front lines of all these semi-intentionally generated shortages, of how the shortage of diesel fuel and how the exacerbated price of diesel fuel is affecting the transportation market. You're a really fucking important voice to have, on top of being out there getting the word out. So thank you, G-Dub, for all that you do. Beyond the Buffalo shooting, well, then we move down into one that doesn't fit their narrative here in Texas. Spoken like I'm still there. In Uvalde, Texas, Robb Elementary, there are a number of contradictory accounts coming in. Here's what we know for sure. The shooter was 18 years of age. 18. Okay, fine, fair enough. He purchased these two Daniel Defense firearms just apparently days before. Now, he had made threats on social media. He had posted on Reddit and a number of social media platforms that he intended to commit a violent act, particularly saying that he was gonna shoot up a school. Now, that wasn't how it started out. It's not like he drove to the school with specific intent of shooting up the school. The first person he shot was his grandmother. There was a high-speed pursuit in relation to that. He wound up taking cover in the school, which for some reason a member of the faculty had left one of the doors open. A glaring fucking security violation. Glaring. Yeah, another double standard. Yeah, we don't need an AR. You can't fight an army. Oh, but here's a bunch of AKs so we can fight the Russians, right? He takes cover in the school. Now, the Uvalde Police Department, and I showed you a picture of their SWAT team earlier. Look at these guys. Oh, they're all dressed up in their pretty little LARPer costumes with their pretty little mouse guns. And the one guy running the shotgun up front, he's Frosty the Point Man, backed by his two fucking brother bullet sponges. Yeah, all that gear. Guess who paid for that? You fucking did. Yeah. One way or the other, whether you paid for it in your state taxpayer fund or whether you paid your taxes to the federal government, because a lot of that came as a result of federal law enforcement grants. The militarization of law enforcement is something that I have long lamented. And again, it's a matter of principle. I don't give a fuck which side is in charge. When you start letting law enforcement behave like a de facto military, you're going to get a militarization and a war response every time, and the civilians are going to be the fucking enemy. We have discussed this at length before on the sermon of the reason why that is dangerous, because when governments turn, when they go through periods of turmoil or unrest or secession or revolution, all of which are still very much on the table for the United States of America, here in this day and age, the military tend to side with the civilian population, where the police tend to side with the regime. That is something that Joey and I have argued about and debated ad nauseum, and sometimes we fucking disagree with regard to the level of optimism that I hold for how it's going to shake out like that. What I will tell you is, regardless of who's in charge, which political side is in charge, the militarization of law enforcement is a bad fucking idea. Particularly when, at the same time, we are working on militarizing them with regard to weapons, gear, and tactics, we are defunding them to where the best candidates are not showing up. You want to know how we get weak-ass cops like what showed themselves in Uvalde? You defund police. You strip the department, you lower the pay scales, you cut down the department's budget, and any incentive for the best cops to go in there and do the work. Yeah, man, the cops should do it because it's like a wholesome altruistic thing, man. They shouldn't be concerned with like money and stuff, bro. Because that's what you all sound like to me. Those people, it is an inevitable, it's not only a predictable result, it's an inevitable result that the quality of officer that you are going to have, and particularly the nuts and spines on those officers, is going to fucking plummet. Here is what happened in Uvalde once the shooter had taken cover inside the school. They kept... Not only did they not go in, and first they said, well, you know, we thought it was a barricaded suspect, and our training told us not to. First of all, let me tell you something. I've trained with some of the same people that these people have trained with. And I'm perfectly aware, as Brother Dick Shepherd, you made it, bro, you made it. Thank you for the nod and the like on the post about Miss Charlie, and offering your prayers on that. I appreciate that, Dick, and good to see you. You're going to get lower quality of law enforcement officers, and these weak ass officers, in spite of being set up in a way that any special operations team would have been proud to go in there with fucking, 3 alpha plate carriers and fucking chicken plates front and rear, ceramic oversteel, top of the line shit, full battle rattle, man, crash helmets, LBE, top of the line M4s, top of the line shotguns, Halligan tool, the whole fucking bit. They've got the full kit. We built and we trained them to handle fucking situations like that. And what did they do? They set up a perimeter, and not only did not go in for an excess of half a fucking hour, but actually prevented parents who were clearly in possession of more stones and more spine than these pig pieces of shit. And you guys know my position on law enforcement. I do not use that word lightly. I do not use that word lightly. But these cowardly pieces of shit, these porcine, 10-star, no-nut motherfuckers, not only didn't go in themselves, but held everybody else back for an excess of 30 minutes. When one parent said, fuck y'all, I'm going in myself to get my kid, they tasered him. Put him face down on the ground and cuffed his ass. Another mother who tried to do the same thing. They shook the shit out of her and stuck her in fucking handcuffs. Oh, we had to control the situation. No, controlling the situation, Sparky, is taking that full battle rattle that the rest of us fucking paid for and getting your ass in there and neutralizing the fucking threat. And the people who are out there saying, well, you've never been a law enforcement officer, man. You don't have a right to a fucking opinion. Okay, well, let's just go on what their own fucking textbooks and what their own training told them. You guys may remember another certain school shooting took place in a little town outside of Denver called Columbine. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. We all remember that one, don't we? Oddly enough, by the way, for our cadaver-in-chief that insists that his much vaunted assault weapons ban, which any of us who are in the gun market know there never was an actual ban, but his much vaunted, yes, my assault weapons ban, God, cut fucking 90% of the... Dude, look at the year... 94 to 2005. Oh, wait, what year did Columbine happen? Almost dead halfway through this so-called assault weapons ban. So great job, Sparky. Definitely a policy that we're going to get out there and enforce. And the same people that you're going to expect to enforce it are the same people that held the parents back. Odd how that works. They seem a lot more adamant when it comes to a no-knock warrant for some weed dealer in the fucking projects, but can't be bothered to get in after it. Let me tell you why I brought up Columbine. Because the police tactics and the way that these departments are trained, and again, who pays for that training? Same people that pay for the battle rattle, you and me. Training and tactics changed after Columbine. Why? Because a number of organizations, including the Secret Service, and Bongino, by the way, if you guys aren't watching Dan Bongino's program, you should be. At least listen to the podcast. Give the man a listen. Guy's former Secret Service agent. He knows from whence he speaks, and he has been all over this shit. The one thing that I really respect about Bongino is he didn't comment on it for almost 2 days. He didn't comment on it, as he normally does, because he has the same mindset. Absolutely, bro. I completely agree. He has the same mindset that I do. Is I'm not just going to spew. You know, I'm not going to let Tucker Carlson or that fucking Maddow guy or that Stelter bitch do my thinking for me. I'm going to gather every fact from every source that I can. I'm going to process the shit, and then I'm going to give you my take on it. And even when I'm giving you my take on it, you hear me. Sunday after Sunday, you hear me. I am not a fucking guru. I'm a crane operator with some fucking opinions. So I'm just giving you my best take. Now, you know that it's coming from the heart, and you know that it's coming from a position of ideological consistency and intellectual honesty, because my integrity is very important to me, and I know that's the reason a lot of you guys trust my opinion on this kind of stuff. But like, oh yeah, Baker, right, and we can't, right. And again, sorry for not bringing that up, and thank you for checking me. Point being, he waited. And he brought everything together, and he, being a former Secret Service agent, brought up the whole fucking study that the Secret Service did. And it's one of my bullet points, and we're going to get to it here in a bit. After Columbine, the training and the tactics changed. Before, the thought was, if you got a barricaded suspect, you set up a perimeter, and you wait for the negotiators to get there. After Columbine, they figured out, like the quote, like Alfred's quote from the Batman movie, some people just want to watch the world burn, right? Some people, there is no negotiating. There is no exit strategy. They had no intention of getting out when they first walked in. They knew that they were going to die on scene, and the only thing they're interested in is racking up a huge body count. That's what law enforcement learned after Columbine. So the training and the tactics changed. Before, it was, wait, oh, brother, you showed up. Brother James Pearson, my law enforcement brethren, feel free to check me on any of this stuff, because you showed up at exactly the right time. After Columbine, the training and the tactics changed. Before, they would wait for a 4 or 5 man squad to get there and suit up, and then you bring in negotiators and everything else. The main impetus after Columbine was, first officer on the scene has a very broad sweep of authority that, depending on circumstances, how many people get there, what their training level is, what their armaments are, whether they have a patrol carbine in the car or they've just got their service handgun. But no matter what, the prime directive is, get in there. If you got to walk over bodies that are still bleeding, get in there. If you've got to sweep through classrooms and witness that fucking carnage, if you've got to go through that fatal funnel And you guys that are in law enforcement and guys like Dick who have been in the military, you know about that fatal funnel. You know you're going to be taking some lead. But the impetus, no matter what, is get in there and neutralize the threat. Neutralize the threat is a diplomatic way of saying bleed that motherfucker out. So for the Uvalde Police Department, their SWAT team, their airsoft LARPer squad, to have held people back, to have held other law enforcement back. Because the understanding is that when Border Patrol got there, they just said, fuck you, we're going through. And at that point, a couple of guys went, well, fuck it, we're on board too. Regardless, they held back for 30 minutes. And don't tell me this was about the training. Because the documentation has now come out, and I want to say I pulled it down on one of my bullet points. Speaking of bullet points, probably a bad choice of words right now. No. Here we go. So the Secret Service did even though so the tactics changed after Columbine, and as recently as 2019, the United States Secret Service did a whole assessment of these things. Here's a couple of major fucking violations coming off of that report. Things that they ignored. Despite what Biden is fucking telling everybody about it being a disturbed white kid and a white supremacist radicalized by the internet, what Secret Service found is there is no profile of a student attacker, nor is there a profile for the type of school that has been targeted. They found that attackers usually had multiple motives, the most common involving a grievance with classmates. This kid was bullied. This kid made posts on social media saying that he was bullied, saying that he was most attackers use firearms, and the firearms were most often acquired from the home. That was not the case here. He acquired 2 high-end ARs, Daniel Defense, fine weapon, and you know I'm not at all about mouse guns. Right? Thank you, Brother James. Thank you. Yes, you either neutralize the threat or you are the bullet sponge. You are there to take fucking fire so the sheep don't have to. It's part of being a fucking sheepdog. Woof woof, motherfucker. I need another sip. I'm letting my emotions get the best of me here. You get in there and you neutralize the threat, or you become the bullet sponge. Brett, who's also former military, you get a flashbang, get a flashbang, get a flashbang. Everybody gets a flashbang. But yeah, room clearing 101. First guy through that likely ain't coming home unscathed. First guy through in that fatal funnel, probably going home in a Ziploc. It's what you signed up for, Sparky. Fuck. I'm hearing a lot of celebrities, I'm hearing a lot of high-end politicians talk about how they felt their guts wrench and all which is a nice way of them making the sanctimony about their tears that they're shedding because there weren't enough gun laws to prevent this from happening. You know what? I felt my guts wrench reading about this, but on a totally different level. My guts were wrenching because the people who, oddly enough, the same people that say we don't need guns because the cops are there to fucking protect us. You got a series of cops who were too cowardly to go in and do their fucking job. So the protection of the cops failed. And now these same sanctimonious, hypocritical motherfuckers want to turn around and say, look, see, the good guy with the gun thing is a myth. As if civilian good guy with a gun has anything to do with nutless cop with a gun. And this is not to slack. Again, I cannot be abundantly clear enough on this. My support for legitimate law enforcement, up to and including Tier 1 door kickers that are supposed to go in full battle rattle, and they know what they sign up for, and day after day they do that fucking job. And a lot of them do get to go home in a Ziploc. A lot of them are traumatized for fucking life. A lot of them are crippled for life. A lot of them are carrying more metal around in their body than the fucking Terminator. But they're on the front. And they do what they're supposed to fucking do. Uvalde SWAT team, you are a fucking embarrassment. You are a fucking disgrace. Every one of you should resign in shame and hashtag get off my rock. That's what my gut's wrenched about. Because regardless of if you are a conservative and a gun rights advocate who understands the necessity of legitimate law enforcement. Well, exactly. Conservatives and Second Amendment gun rights activists, gun rights absolutists like myself, we understand the necessity for a segment of the population to be specifically trained and specifically tasked. Because just like the cops cannot be everywhere at one time, and the good guy with the gun does have to go in, they did a comprehensive study on that too. That when there is an armed civilian, that the body count is substantially reduced, the time of the carnage is substantially reduced. There's so much. But people on both sides can get behind this one. Because if you're a Second Amendment advocate and you're a conservative, you understand the necessity for legitimate law enforcement. Tier 1 door kickers that have got to be there to do a specific job and have specific training to deal with specific situations that the average civilian, regardless, is not capable of. Some of us are a little more fortunate than others to have people with skill sets, to have paid money out of our own pocket, to have gone and trained with the best people that we can fucking afford, and we're still not up for it, because at the end of the day, active shooter, it's one of the things that training with brother Sonny Puzikas, you guys, you already know, but training with brother Sonny, the classes that he's got, a specific class called non-operator gunfighter, where you're not, you carry your EDC piece, you carry your daily carry piece in your daily carry holster with your daily carry ammo, and you run what you brung. All of these civilians that are going in the LBEs and full battle rattle and playing their little Walter Mitty tactical Ted game and fucking training, I mean, that's beautiful. Good on them, because I'd rather have them trained than untrained. They say there's no proof that legit armed folks do, because if it doesn't happen, you don't count it. Right. Let's say you're a tactical Ted and you're going in and you're taking, I don't know, I don't want to call any bat fuck off ward boy poser out by name, Larry Vickers. You take those classes and you're going in full battle rattle with your LBE and everybody's in a fucking stack. Guess what, man? That's not doing you any good as an individual, because an individual, active shooter incident breaks out, you're there. You're the point man. And there is no stack. You don't have 4 alpha swinging dick gunfighters in that stack behind you, posted up between the shoulder blades, fanning out, slicing the pie, cutting the corners. You don't have that. It's you, bro. It's you. And your handgun. If you're exceedingly fortunate to be close enough to your vehicle, you got a shotgun or a carbine. But the likelihood is damn near nil. So it's you and your everyday carry handgun. And that is how we train when Sonny does his non-operator gunfighter classes. It's you, and you run what you brung. Now, as a conservative and a gun owner, we understand that there has to be a certain segment of law enforcement, those tier 1 door kickers, that are there to train specifically to go in as a unit. 5 guys in the stack, everybody equipped with their own shit, everybody with their own fucking task. We understand the necessity for that. And the gun haters, the ones who would repeal the Second Amendment if only they were given the stroke, they understand the necessity. Even if they can't make up their fucking mind, they understand the necessity for cops because it's constantly them saying, we don't need a gun, the police will protect you. Then when the police wind up shooting some predatory scumbag of a particular demographic that it isn't okay to speak the truth about statistically, they want to condemn the actions of the law enforcement and say that we got to fucking defund the police. But then they want to jump back in and say, but you civilians still need to be disarmed. Who's going to do it? Right. Those same tier 1 door kickers that we're counting on now. The point is this. Even though they can't decide which side of the coin they're on, depending on the circumstance, right. And that's the thing. People like Brother James Pearson, his record speaks for itself. He doesn't need the accolades. He doesn't need anybody puffing his pecker or blowing smoke up his ass. He knows what he's about. He's been there. And when that challenge came, he rose and exceeded. Do you feel me? You guys tracking with me on that? Sorry, got a little off. The point is, people on both sides can understand the necessity of the cops. They can understand the necessity of SWAT. They can understand the necessity of those fucking tier 1 door kickers. We can all understand that. So, when the aforementioned demographic fails utterly and abjectly, as they did here, not just fails, but specifically intercedes and forbids anyone else from doing what needed to be done. Well, you know, Bart, if he would have let an armed parent go in there, it just would have been one more guy to get killed. You know what? It would have been one more guy to be a bullet sponge. It would have been one more guy to take a round so a fucking third grader didn't have to. And again, Dick, you nailed it. Gun-free zone shooters who don't acknowledge daily unrelated shootings like Chicago and other major metro cities. Right. You can't even mention the word Chicago. Greg Abbott did. Texas Governor Greg Abbott specifically mentioned Chicago. Oh, you're going to say this about our Texas schools and our laws, you know, but nobody wants to talk about Chicago. And, of course, Lori Lightfoot had to put her fucking foot in her fish-faced goddamn mouth. You guys read H.P. Lovecraft? Anybody read H.P. Lovecraft? Shadow over Innsmouth, right? After a while, they developed that fish look. Lori fucking Lightfoot. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyway, tangent. I lack context, but you got it. Always, man. Simpatico, brother. Even after all this time not being able to catch up. Fucking simpatico. Necessary good cops. We need watchdogs, not poodles. Security isn't always pretty, but it's always fucking dangerous. I couldn't agree more. No, I don't need you to stay quiet right now, James. I need your voice. And that's what this is about. That's why we've sort of changed the format. That's why we kind of open things up. We're playing it a little more fast and loose because I want this to be a conversation. You got everybody here from the different backgrounds and the different skill sets and different bases of knowledge. You got G-Dub, outlaw trucker. He can tell us about the fucking food shortages coming down the pike. He can tell us about the fucking, back when the trucker strike was going on, the fucking freedom convoys. He can tell us about that. You got Brother James Pearson, a rich and storied history in fucking Texas law enforcement. Why couldn't you just say law enforcement? Because Texas, motherfucker. I may be a denizen of the Northwest now, but my heart still fucking pumps Lodestar. Texas made me everything that I am, good, bad, and ugly. And that shit will get up in your blood, son. For a minute, how often have you seen me quiet? About as frequently as I'm at a loss for words, brother. Point is this. We do need the sheepdogs, and they failed here. They utterly fucking failed. But here's where it gets back to the Secret Service report, and I do want to get back on that because that's important. These are the things that they found. Most attackers use firearms. Firearms were acquired from home. This guy bought 2 Daniel Defense. Now a lot has been made of this. And yes, it looks dodgy as fuck. You know what a Daniel Defense AR goes for. If you dig mouse guns, or even if you're a moderate gun person, you know what that AR platform built by Daniel Defense goes for. And if you didn't, I'm going to fill you in. Anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000. That's not counting the optic that he slapped on that bitch, was an EOTech. So that's another several hundred for that EOTech glass that he fucking slapped on it. 2 of them. Ordered online, picked up at a local gun store. He worked part-time as a burger flipper at Wendy's. He lived with his grandparents. It's an impoverished fucking community. So a lot of people draw conspiracy conclusions from that. Possibly. I even think that you could make a case for that. I believe that you could. I would be remiss, however, if I didn't offer at least an attempt at a simple factual explanation. Credit card. How many of you, because again, he lived with his grandmother. He had no fucking debt. Credit card companies, again, feel free to fact check, because I don't know. Let me state from the outset, I don't know. Okay? But if you ordered it online, it had to be a credit or debit card if you ordered the thing online for delivery to a local gun shop. So him coming up with that, it's not entirely impossible for someone just turning 18, because we all know what banks and credit card companies, here's a credit card, get out there, spend some money, get into debt, and they start doing that the minute you fucking hit legal adulthood at 18. So that is a possibility. Yep, too easy to get a credit card. I'm down with theory, but often it's just sad and obvious. And that's where I'm at, James. That's where I'm at. Brother Pearson speaks the truth. No, not credit card necessarily with that high of a limit at 18 years old, all right? But it's a possibility. Or spread 2 different purchases over 2 different credit cards. The first credit card anybody ever gave me, granted, I was... God, fuck, how old was I? Well, okay, the first credit card they gave me that I fucked up when I was in my early 20s had a limit. So I was in my 20s, so that had to be the 90s, and it had a $1,000 limit. $1,000 limit. So $1,000 in the 90s, we're looking roughly the same. First credit card I got in my adult life, I fucked that up in my early 20s. I didn't get another credit card until I was, 46, maybe? And when I got that, it was a $2,000 limit, right off the bat. I'm just saying, Dick, I don't know, right? The whole reason I'm bringing this up is I'm trying to remain agnostic and open about this. And as I said from the outset, there are a lot of fucking inconsistencies here. A ton of them. Both in the Buffalo shooting and the Uvalde shooting. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up. The door that was mysteriously left open out back by a faculty member. The fact that the resource officer drove right by the suspect and didn't realize that he was driving right past the suspect. I mean, dude, there's a ton of stuff that doesn't add up. But I'm not going to jump straight into... Right. Yeah, there's no reason to get all AJ about it. You know what I'm saying? We could go down that rabbit hole and, discuss the fact there's inconsistencies about the shooting, and this shooter might have been trans, might have been immigrant, whatever it is, they're putting stuff in the water to turn the freaking frogs gay. Yeah, we could go that. Pretty good, huh? Yeah. Pretty good, AJ? Yeah, pretty good. I like that. Alexi, if you're watching, that was just for you, buddy. Yeah, we don't, because sometimes, and again, that's one of the bullet points that I'm going to touch on a little bit later, it doesn't always have to be, the Bavarian Illuminati and the Gnomes of Zurich and the Elders of Zion and the Secret Council of 12 and the Omega Concern, everybody putting things together. I mean, like one of the things that came out was one of the victims in Buffalo was a guy that supposedly invented a fucking water engine and all this other kind of stuff. Dude, okay, fine. Really? They're going to plan an op of that magnitude to take out one fucking guy who you've never heard of? Really? Okay. No, man. My take remains as it has always been on these matters. Don't rule out anything. Okay? Because at the end of the day, the royal family might very well be shape-shifting vampire lizard creatures with double eyelids. It could happen. But you've got to go with likelihood. And the likelihood is, got a guy who I served with his teacher, apparently propping doors open is a norm. But how that dude found that door. You see, and this is what I'm talking about remaining agnostic. Is it dodgy as fuck? Well, it kind of is. And then you realize, no, because if it's a hot day, teachers prop doors open. But how did he go to that one particular door? And then you just spin yourself up in a circle. I'm not going to go that route. Because we're going to get into Occam's razor here at the end. I've got a number of other bullet points that I need to fucking get into before we get there. But the Uvalde shooting... Again, just finishing up what the Secret Service found. And this is the big one. This was the big one. Most attackers had experienced, psychological, behavioral, and or developmental symptoms. All of these motherfuckers. And the two last week were no fucking exception. The Buffalo shooter and the Uvalde shooter. Nearly every attacker experienced negative home life factors. Most attackers were victims of bullying, which was often observed by others. The flags were there. The flags are always there. Always. So when those flags are there and they get overlooked, it is understandable how somebody will go full Alex Jones. When you find out that a retired FBI agent was in constant contact with the Buffalo shooter in some capacity, even if it was just a connection on social media, and that he received a copy of the memo and this guy's intent 30 minutes before he went in. Now, whether or not he received it, nobody fucking knows. And again, not knowing is a big fucking part of it. But we have to ask the fucking questions, don't we? No! We don't have to ask the questions. We need to ban the guns! And now we get to now we get to the heart of the matter. Now we fucking cut to the chase. Now we get to where the rubber meets the road. We're not going to talk about, right, crazy is an explanation, not a symptom. Agreed. Apparently the kid did a little bit of cross-dressing and was effeminate at the very least, right? What do you say that if one of his classmates would have reported him even a week before this fucking happened, that not only would nothing have been done, but the kid that reported him would have been labeled a transphobe and excoriated by his fucking peers? What are the chances? Remember Fort Hood? Nidal Hassan? How was he able to be in contact with radical mullahs overseas on U.S. government computers with monitored internet connections, discussing things like shooting up a fucking U.S. military base? How was he able to walk into classes and fucking espouse violent Muslim ideologies on a United States military base for years and nobody pulled him? Why? Why? We know why. Because the minute you yank somebody like that, what are you? Something phobe. Help me out. The minute you point out that someone is batshit crazy, if they happen to be trans, and they're batshit crazy and they're talking about shooting up a fucking school, you report them. Why? Because that's what you do. They're clearly a fucking threat. And what happens to you? You get labeled a something phobe. Help me out. We have to be... Now, here's the thing. Had the narrative been, or had the incident been in line with the narrative the way that it was in Buffalo, well, the media and the teachers and the mental health people, they would have no problem fucking pointing out, crazy white guy, crazy white guy, crazy white guy, do something, do something, do something. But anybody else, any of the marginalized, historically oppressed demographics, you can't say a fucking word. Even though the Secret Service says those red flags are all over the place, like they were with the Boston Marathon bombers, like they were with every fucking school shooting, right? I remember you had been stationed there. I remember that. Lived over it and slept fine. I hear you, man. I feel you. I know you guys are tracking with me on this one. When you get it to where there is only one demographic that it is culturally okay to blame everything on, that's what you're going to wind up with. What we know about the Uvalde shooting, Washington Post: gunman emerged from classroom closet firing at Border Patrol agents. Well, that sounds like mistaking concealment for cover, which you would expect from a guy running a mouse gun. Sorry, 556 people. Sorry. And right now, Dick's sitting there thinking, well, technically, I've never had a problem killing a man with a 556. Yeah, I get it. Sorry, man, you're never going to talk me off that 30 cal holes make invisible souls, son. Gunman in Uvalde left, again, in keeping with the Secret Service memo, New York Times, gunman in Uvalde left multiple hints before his attack began. On and on and on. Any number of news sources talking about the red flags that were put up, all of the hints that were there. Buffalo shooter, exactly the same fucking thing. Which begs the question, if white supremacy is the leading fucking terror threat, how did this guy slip through the woodwork with all the goddamn red flags? How does that happen? Isn't Merrick Garland's Justice Department supposed to be all over that? And again, the propaganda ministry immediately lighten up Governor Abbott, ABC News, as Governor Abbott places shooting blame on mental health. What has Texas done to address it? And my favorite Orwellian missive of the day from KENS Channel 5. Mental health expert disagrees with Governor Abbott's assertion that any school shooter has a mental illness. Fucking Wow. What do we know about school shooter after school? And again, drawing a distinction between mass shootings and school shootings, because there's a lot of nuance and a change in definition, thanks to a certain mulatto messiah president who changed the definition specifically to amp up the overall number of mass shootings. Only has to be 3 or more. It used to be 5 to 7. First it was 7, then it got dropped to 5. Now it's 3 or more. If 3 or more people get hit, it's a mass shooting. So you got to differentiate mass shootings from school shootings. Now, Obama did that so he could say, look, the number of mass shootings has gone up. The unfortunate and unintended consequence for the mulatto messiah is, because of the nature of drive-bys and places like Chicago, now, by definition, most mass shootings, black men. So that whole white guy shooting up the place doesn't apply anymore, does it? In fact, that no longer even applies on school shootings. The indoor and outdoor record for mass murder now are both held by races other than white. Virginia Tech, Asian, indoor record. Just got broken. Somebody do some homework on that one for me. I meant to pull it up as a bullet point. The important point is this. Historically, all of the school shooters have mental illness, and almost without exception, they are on SSRI antidepressants. Nobody wants to look into that. Let me tell you what they are willing to look into, though. They're willing to give the mother of Uvalde elementary school shooter her day in court. And you want to know what the mom has to say? The same thing that every violent, predatory, miscreant scumbag, their parents and their family have to say after they get bled the fuck out, after they get excoriated in the press for being violent, predatory, criminal, miscreant scumbags. Didn't do nothing. All the black kids that get shot robbing jewelry stores. He didn't have to shoot him. He wasn't going to hurt nobody. Oh, really? Is that why he wandered in there with a gun, Sparky? Yeah, he got shot. He got bled the fuck out. Good. Fuck him and fuck his grieving family. Good people have had enough. When I see these fucking protesters outside the NRA convention, enough is enough. Enough is enough. That cuts both ways, Sparky. Good, decent, law-abiding fucking citizens have goddamn had enough. And if you think that we aren't grieving even harder, that our demographic, the one that was supposed to fucking step up, was prevented from doing so, and the cops who we trusted to have the training, who we paid for the gear and the training, not only failed to act, but prevented us from acting. And you don't think we're fired up over that? You think we're reveling in the death of kids, you sick, ghoulish fucks? No, you're the one splashing around in the fucking blood. When Beto fucking O'Rourke interrupts a goddamn press conference to launch his gubernatorial campaign, splashing around in the blood of dead kids before the bodies are even cold? Oh, but we're the sick ones. There is no discourse. There is no dialogue with these people anymore. They see one thing. And their arguments are always based on emotion. Never facts. Never statistics. Never empirical evidence. Never Secret Service reports that tell how to make the call when it's coming, how to predict it, how to prevent it. Never about that. No, we're just going to hang a gun-free zone in front of a fucking school and hope for the best. What's an assault rifle? All right, kids, I already see where that's going. Stop. Okay, because we're all on the same page here. Yeah, everybody settle down. But the mother, same fucking press that lets jewelry store robbers that get shot, and he didn't do nothing, and he was about to go back to college, and he had a bright future ahead of him. Right. Well, now we got the Latina version of that. We got the Latina didn't do nothing now. Please don't judge him. I have no words. I have no words to say. I don't know what he was thinking. He had his reasons for doing what he did. I know he had his reasons. We all have a rage. Some people have it more than others. Ma'am, I couldn't agree more. Because right now I'm fucking consumed with rage. I am consumed with rage. Do nada. Nice, Dennis. That totally works. I am consumed with fucking rage. I am consumed with rage at the likes of you failing utterly as a goddamn parent. I am enraged at the likes of your thankfully dead son, who shot his own fucking grandmother, and then, while being pursued, ducks into an elementary school and starts wasting kids. I'm consumed with rage about that. I am consumed with fucking rage about the lack of law enforcement response, about the law enforcement preventing response from armed citizens like myself who were more than willing to go in there. Oh, you can't just let a civilian go in there and start shooting up the place. Last I checked, Sparky, there was a civilian in there shooting up the place, and they're trying to prevent it, and you are going to prevent them from preventing it. It's beautiful. Yes. And this is why I'm so glad that you're here, James. You guys, if you don't know Brother Pearson, you need to ask somebody. This guy's street cred when it comes to fucking LEO is beyond fucking reproach. Unassailable, unimpeachable. He knows from whence he fucking speaks. But yeah, that's his home state, and it's an insult to what he does. I feel you on that, brother. And again, we've had this discussion. You know just my mind and my heart when it comes to this. But here's where it gets even worse. The media, eager for a boogeyman because of everything else that's fucking going on right now. And we're not even gonna get into the World Economic Forum shit right now, because it's so obvious as to not need to be fucked with. But again, this is right here at home. This is right here at home. What they're doing in Davos, yeah, man, it's resonating, and you want to check out stuff on that. You got that all day long. Here's what the media and the propaganda ministry is fucking doing here. And of course, they're fact checking it now. But a tweet went out. It was one of those multi-stage tweets. You guys that are on Twitter might not know. You only get like a certain amount of characters per tweet on Twitter. So they do these multi-stage tweets where it's like, they'll do it's like the first one slash, and then the second one 2 slash. So it's like, you're reading them 1, 2, 3. Multi-stage tweet comes out right after the thing. Said that they went to a funeral for one of the victims, and that they were followed leaving the funeral by people who they thought were media. And then they got home, and the people got out of the car and identified themselves as representatives for Governor Greg Abbott, and supposedly offered the family money to stand in support of Governor Abbott at a press conference. And of course, suddenly I was filled with righteous indignation, and I told him to fuck himself and get off my porch, at which point his whole demeanor shifted and said that people disappear in the state of Texas all the time. I should point out that the guy in his own fucking profile identified himself as a former POW, a Congressional Medal of Honor winner, a Navy SEAL, and several other really, really high-ranking. Okay, you see where I'm going with this? How obviously bullshit was this tweet? But no less than 2 United States congressmen retweeted it. Several reporters, from the Austin American-Statesman all the way up to the New York Times, responded to the tweet saying, "Please contact me directly. I want to hear more about your story." Dozens of left-wing celebrities retweeted it without question, including one entertainer who is a friend of mine. Retweeted it without question. Posted the line after it, "Governor Abbott is over." Turns out, the guy that posted the tweet is right here in Spokane, Washington. Not even a Texan. Have any of these people pulled their tweets? Any of the journalists who retweeted it as if it were fact gone back and went, "Hey, sorry, we got it wrong"? Nope. CNN now. Fact check debunking false viral tweets about Abbott and Cruz after Texas mass shooting. False claim about a threat from Abbott's office. My Cancer Journey posted a 3-tweet tale shared by tens of thousands on Twitter before it was eventually deleted. The viral story about Abbott is fake. The My Cancer Journey account deleted the 3 viral tweets on Friday. Then the account was taken offline entirely. The man behind the account insisted in a brief Friday phone interview with CNN that an unknown person who had somehow gained access to the account had posted the tweets as a hoax, but refused to explain a series of past tweets from long before the Uvalde massacre in which he made a wide variety of other sensational and highly dubious claims about life. Again, this piece of shit lives right here in Spokane, Washington. And over the years, he is a well-known fucking fraudster. I am a former POW. I am a Congressional Medal of Honor winner. I am this. I am that. I am surviving cancer and going through that. I mean, dude, they didn't even check. Because this is how hair-triggered these fucking right, the Joy Reid defense. They're a cult, man. They are a fucking cult. And anything that reflected negatively on any fucking Republican politician coming out of this, they were going to take it and run with it. And they did. They all got fucking rooked. And they all look like fucking clowns now. But they're not falling all over themselves to apologize. Hey, Governor Abbott, sorry I said such hateful shit about you. Sorry I believed what was an obvious fucking lie. Sorry that I, as a congressman, retweeted this to constituents. Sorry that I, as a journalist, expounded on this fucking story as if it were legitimate. Nobody's going to apologize. We all know that's a one-way street. Same way it always is with them and their compromises. Finally fact-checking it now. At long last. The Uvalde police ignored their own fucking training. And as a result, people died. But let's get back to Buffalo for a minute. Because we all know, right? And you've heard me go on at length about this. The tyranny of everybody knows, right? Everybody knows. Those of you who have been fans of the sermon and been following it for the entirety of 2 years, don't help any of the new guys out. This one's just for the new guys. About perception, about everybody knows, and about gaslighting. If I ask you to give me one relevant fact, one relevant, important fact about the Suzuki Samurai, what are you going to tell me? What are you going to tell me? 10 seconds. You already know what the immediate response is. If I asked you to give me one relevant fact about the wage gap between men and women, it's made by... That wouldn't have anything to do with your two-wheel transportation, would it? Everybody knows that Suzuki Samurais roll easily, right? Everybody knows. Only that's not true, and it never was. Consumer Reports staged those tests, and they got caught, and they got sued, and they had to pay Suzuki a lot of money. But it absolutely destroyed the market for the Samurai here, because even to this day, after the lawsuit, and after it's been thoroughly debunked, everybody knows that the Suzuki Samurai rolls over easily. When you talk to viewers of that Maddow guy on MSNBC, you talk to them about it, everybody knows that Russian hookers peed on the president. Everybody knows that the Trump campaign colluded with Russia. Everybody knows that there were 19 indictments. Everybody knows that it was proven. Only none of that is true. None of it. I say that to say this. What does everybody know about the leading domestic terror threat in the United States? Again, going by the official narrative, going by the government story. That it's all white supremacists and it's all people with far right-wing political views. America has a problem with right-wing political violence. Again, this is from the Washington Post. You need to only look at the footage of January 6, 2021 to see that, or white supremacist killings like the one in Buffalo, or misogynist killers such as Elliot Rodgers. You remember Elliot went on the incel shooting rampage that was actually a car running over and stabbing rampage that had some shooting involved. But again, guns always guilty because Elliot wasn't white. Always the articles describing the menace of right-wing extremism. The Anti-Defamation League, we're all familiar with the ADL, right? ADL working closely with the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center. Southern Poverty Law Center, they finally got rid of they finally got rid of Dees, finally got rid of Morris Dees. Now Potok, I believe Mark Potok is running the show, and anytime they talk about right-wing domestic terrorism or right-wing extremism, they always go to the Southern Poverty Law Center as domestic extremism experts, subject matter experts. The problem with that is the Southern Poverty Law Center exists on people contributing to fear. In other words, their very business model depends on them finding white supremacy under every fucking bed and every kitchen table. Because if they don't keep people afraid of that, and they don't keep doing their hate watch, where they tell us about all the hate groups that are under every bed and inside every telephone, their donations go away, and therefore they go away. So there's an actual financial incentive for them to find white supremacy and domestic extremism where none exists. Over the past decade, the ADL has counted about 450 murders committed by domestic political extremists, with 29 of those occurring just last year. It reports that, and this is what Biden is basing, and the regime is basing their narrative on, it reports that the overwhelming majority were committed by people with ties to various right-wing groups. So there it is, right? There's your numbers. See, 450, and all those 29 last year, they were all committed by people with ties to right-wing groups. So there you go. Right-wing, domestic white supremacists, they're the lead. Only there's a little problem with that. And thankfully, Megan McArdle, again, it's always the women writers that wind up having the ball, isn't it? Megan McArdle of the Washington Post. They write about these reports, and again, WashingtonPost.com opinions, beware the data of right-wing violence. Domestic political violence, or domestic terrorism, as my own colleagues put it, say the attacks are motivated by someone's political affiliation, right? Nathan Allen killed 2 black people in Massachusetts, Lyndon McLeod, shooting spree in Colorado, etc., etc., etc. And then you dig a little bit deeper. You drill down further into the data. Well, the problem with the Ingles shooting was that his 2 random victims were white. McLeod appears to have killed people that he knew from the local tattoo community. Now, again, these people were tentatively tied to white supremacist or right-wing extremist groups. But again, he's killing people that he knew from the tattoo scene, and Ingles' 2 random victims were white. So is that white supremacist violence? Drill down further into the data and you'll find other cases are even less clearly political. Prison gang members. Oh, somebody shamrocked up. Prison gang members engaging in pedestrian criminal violence. In other words, guy with shamrocks or bluebirds gets out, robs a bank. White supremacist violence. No, it's a bank robbery. Committed by a guy that committed to AB while he was in to keep his asshole intact and keep from getting shanked in the fucking day room. That is not white supremacist violence. That's a dude getting out committing a bank robbery. But it gets better. White supremacists killing their wives. Now, you can say that, right? You could say that that's part of the violence against women problem. What you don't get to do is take that and make it part of your narrative that all fucking domestic extremism, because that is not white supremacist violence. When the narrative that you're painting is roving bands of Confederate hammerskins tracking down darky in the street, Officer Nigger Hater jumping out from behind the bushes because he's on the hunt. He's gonna kill him some darkies. That's the narrative. So when a white supremacist kills their fucking wife, what does one have to do with the other? People with mental illness acting on elaborate delusions that sometimes include references to conspiracy theories. That's considered right-wing extremist violence by the Merrick Garland DOJ. People embroiled in criminal trials or child custody disputes who have become enamored of sovereign citizen theories. I don't have to respond to my lawyer subpoena because I am a sovereign citizen. Well, guess what? If that guy commits violence as a result of this, it's white supremacist, right-wing extremist violence. And she makes clear, I'm not cherry-picking a few ambiguous outliers. I'm arguably describing the majority of the incidents in the ADL's own 2021 report. Now, all these are tragedies, but hardly any of them have anything to do with politics. And then the ADL backtracks and crawfishes. The striking features of white supremacist murders is the large proportion of non-ideological killings. Well, that's a bit Orwellian, don't you think? One of the most striking features of white supremacist murders is that a large proportion of them are non-ideological. Oh, okay. So, in other words, guy with a couple of bolts tattooed robs a bank. White supremacist violence. Guy with 1488 across his chest beats the shit out of his old lady. White supremacist violence. But that's not the narrative. You're not making that clear, that it's a guy with some tattoos robbing a bank. You're making it sound like everyone who has an ideology to the right of fucking Mao Zedong, everyone with a 3%er tattoo, everyone with a Molon Bay bumper sticker, every Second Amendment advocate is a closet Timothy McVeigh just waiting. A powder keg. A white supremacist right-wing extremist powder keg waiting for a fucking ammonium nitrate fuel oil spark so they can blow up a federal building. Do you think it's accidental, these details that they fucking leave out? I want you to read the whole article again. Washington Post, beware the data on right-wing violence. Beware the data on American right-wing violence. It's written by Megan McArdle. I want you guys to check that out. Read the whole thing. There's a reason why they leave out those specific details. Because ultimately what it gets back to is fucking gaslighting. Right? Think about the Buffalo shooter. What do we know about him? That he's a white supremacist is all we fucking know. But his political leanings were actually, oh, wait for it, primarily left-wing. He openly slagged Fox News, and every reporter from Fox News put pictures on them with fucking Stars of David. Say that they were mouthpieces for the international Jewish conspiracy, whatever. But immediately became epidemic of hate, racist attack. But it gets back to gaslighting. Always comes back to gaslighting. For instance, what are one of the things that we are constantly hearing from, particularly during election years? What are we constantly hearing from the left? Particularly about white people. What are we constantly hearing from the left during, particularly election years? What do we hear? That white people are becoming smaller and smaller parts of the electorate. I don't have the audio clip, but it's out there if you guys can find it, where it's basically a compendium and a compilation of all of these mainstream media reporters. And all of these mainstream media reporters are cheering on the fact that this year there were fewer white voters than this demographic. And this year, more Latinos and black people voted on this. And with the influx of immigrants, that the whole demographic is changing, and they're just cheering it on. Why? Because if the demographics change, you can turn red states to blue. Right? Wow. It's almost as if they were saying, hear me out here, open your brain real big, saying that if white people are replaced, I don't mean replaced, I mean substituted. Yeah, let's substitute it. Displaced. Yeah, there we go. We'll go with displaced. That if white Americans of European descent are displaced by an influx of immigrants that tend to vote demographic, or that tend to vote Democratic based on their demographic, that slowly but surely we will push white people into irrelevance politically. Right. You're right. Yeah, thank you. See? And that's exactly where I was going with that, Dick. It's called replacement theory. Now, it's only called replacement theory when they're slagging Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson for talking about it. Because again, dangerous right-wing extremism. Meanwhile, they celebrate and laugh in your face. Those cunt flaps from... Right, thank you, Dick. Again, simpatico, brother. Those cunt flaps from The View, laughing and cheering, ha ha ha, white people are going to be a minority, ha ha. The ADL, the Southern Poverty Law Center. Well, if current demographic trends continue, white people will be politically irrelevant by 2050. They're currently 8% of the population, will be only 3%, and we hold that this is a good thing. Our cadaver-in-chief, our current cadaver-in-chief himself, on video, they're coming. They're coming from overseas, and they're going to keep coming. And the future doesn't belong to white people, and I think it's a good thing. I want them to keep coming. So basically admitting that we're being ethnically cleansed. Basically admitting and bragging about the fact that they are deliberately changing the demographic, and the way that they're changing the demographic is by this open border influx of immigrants. They brag about it. And yet, when we step up and say, hey man, we're being replaced. Crazy right-wing conspiracy theorist. Oh, and by the way, we're replacing you. We're replacing you. We're pushing you into political irrelevance. We're going to make sure that your population continues to dwindle. We're going to give everybody else incentives. We're going to give everybody else incentives in the world to reproduce except for you guys. We're going to penalize you guys for reproducing. We're going to make sure that your tax dollars get jacked up even higher to pay for all these programs for all these other people so they can continue to breed unchecked. And we feel good about that because, we don't like you and we can't wait for you to be a minority. Oh, wow. So you're replacing us because you want us out of the picture? Oh my God, there you go again with your right-wing conspiracy theories. It's called gaslighting, people. Gaslighting. Earth being round was a conspiracy theory. But abortion is not a white thing yet, right? Again, Dick, simpatico, buddy. You're right there. That's how they sell us the Orwellian thing that the repeal of Roe versus Wade is going to disproportionately affect the black community, and at the same time that the overturning of Roe versus Wade was an act of white supremacy. Well, wait a minute. Black women have 6 times, and I'm talking like across the board per capita. I'm not talking like numerically. Numerically is almost neck and neck. But across the board per capita, black women have abortions at 4 to 6 times the rate as white women. So overturning Roe versus Wade is white supremacy? It seems like if you were a white supremacist, you would want black women to continue to have as many abortions as humanly possible. And in fact, try to restrict white women from having abortions, if you were truly a white supremacist. But again, we are well past the point into Orwellian doublethink. They will tell you point blank to your face what they are doing. They'll tell you point blank. Here's what we're doing. And then when you call them on it, you're a bigot, a racist, a conspiracy theorist, any of these things. And then, once again, they're right back at it. They're fucking calling. Okay, here's another example from the opener. Klaus Schwab. The problem that we have is not globalization. The problem is a lack of global governance. And then Alex Jones has to go on and tell his faithful, And the faithful get my gun, they retweet it, they get on social media, they talk about it. Hey, man, it's a one world government's coming. Oh my God, what a crazy conspiracy theory. Because we took them at their word. There was an audio clip that I had marked on Twitter. The tweet got pulled and fucking deleted, and it got pulled from 3 other YouTube channels where one of the guys at the World Economic Forum is straight up saying and quoting numbers about population reduction. Right there on the Georgia Guidestones. They're saying it in their own words. Here's another one. Klaus Schwab. The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. And we have been talking about the Great Reset since Klaus Schwab wrote a book with that as the title, and for the longest time, we were banned from social media. We're crazy conspiracy theorists. Oh, by the way, there is a Great Reset. You will own nothing and you will be happy. This is happening. It's happening right in front of your face. What did you just say that was happening? Oh my God, what are you, crazy? Gaslighting. We have been over that term time and time and time again. I say all that to say this. When they hit you with their official narrative and they only paint half the picture, it becomes incumbent upon you to dig deeper and have the facts. You are not going to convince the fawning faithful. You are not going to change their mind because, again, you're no more going to change a hardcore leftist's mind about his ideology. You are no more going to talk him off of that than you are going to talk a fundamentalist Muslim off the Quran. Then you're going to talk a hardcore Catholic off the Eucharist or confession or Holy Communion or the Mass being done in Latin, if we really want to get old school. It's not going to happen because there's an article of faith for them. Well, Bart, then why should I learn the facts? Because it's not about them. It is about the bystanders. It is about the fence sitters. It is about the grazers and the Pollyannas that are witnessing the discussion, that are witnessing the argument. That's who it's for. When they come to you and say, we are replacing you. And you say, hey man, maybe I don't want to be replaced. Maybe I want my offspring to look the same as me. Maybe I'm really not down with going extinct. I'll give you an example from white nationalist right-wing extremism, some real white nationalist right-wing extremism. The 14 words. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. That's dangerous right-wing extremism. Pull the word white out of that. Insert racial demographic of your choice. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for Asian children, says an Asian community activist. Would anybody blink? Anybody raise an eyebrow? We must secure the existence of our people and a future for black children, said the Black Panther Party in the 1960s. Would anybody bat an eyebrow? Nope. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. Racism, and all of a sudden it's Sutherland at the end of fucking Body Snatchers. Oh! Mm-hmm. 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 Forgot La Raza, fucking Azatlan movement. They will tell you point blank to your face. Even college educated white kids. Ponder this for a minute. College educated white kids saying that they cannot wait. And I've heard both extremes, right? I have heard from both extremes of college educated leftist kids saying they can't wait for white people to be a minority, and I've heard some go as far as that, I can't wait until we go extinct. I've heard that out of their own fucking mouths. At which point I just want to hand them a handgun and just go, okay, Sparky, here you go. How committed are you to this premise? Start with you. Thank you very much. Yep. And it's indoctrination. Yep. And they're taking, and Dick, they're taking pages out of the Saul Alinsky playbook too. I don't know how often you've been following the sermon, but we've gone into great detail on that. And by the way, man, thanks for hanging out with us today. Yeah, we should catch up, bro. We should. Point being is this. They will attempt to gaslight you. They will tell you point blank what they are doing. And then when you feed their own words back to them, they will try to tell you that you are crazy. You must be crazy. You must be a right-wing extreme, one of those insane right-wing extremists. That's what you must be. Why? Because I'm pointing out what you just told me point blank with your own lips that you're going to fucking do? Klaus Schwab is saying we're going to have a great reset. We are going to take advantage of this crisis to retool everything in the image that we want. We are going to take advantage of... How do you take people seriously on a climate crisis who are telling you that sea levels are going to rise 6 feet over the next 12 years and yet they're buying oceanfront properties? How do you take these people seriously? They are remaking the world in their own fucking image and they're bragging about it. They're telling you right to your face. You can find the video online where they are telling you you will own nothing and you will be happy. And you point that out and say, look, dude, they're talking about no material possessions. They're talking about a complete reset of the entire fucking world. He even wrote a book called The Great Reset, and they say, The Great Reset? What kind of crazy conspiracy theory is that? They tell you point blank, we are leaving the borders open. We are fucking flooding the country with illegal immigrants, that we can't wait for white people to be a minority. And you say, hey man, look dude, we are being ethnically replaced. By any measure and any definition, that is factually fucking irrefutable. But yet you pointed out, not only are you a crazy right-wing extremist, a conspiracy theorist, but indeed a bigot and a racist, for pointing out what they've said to you in your own fucking words. The process is called gaslighting. Are you familiar with Occam's razor? I'll give you the dictionary definition of it, first of all. A scientific and philosophical rule that entities should not be multiplied unnecessarily, which is interpreted as requiring that the simplest of competing theories be preferred to the more complex, or that explanations of unknown phenomena be sought first if in terms of known quantities or qualities. Let me give you the short version of that. The simplest explanation, the explanation that requires the fewest assumptions, independent of other factors, is generally considered to be correct. The one that requires the lowest level of #intellectual gymnastics It's the one that tends to be correct. Why would this many bad things be happening under the current regime? Inflation running away, a border which was already out of control getting more out of control, and the few controls like Title 42 that they still had in place, they want to take down. Why would they be loading illegal immigrants on planes at taxpayer expense and flying them primarily into red state regions and just dropping them off? Landing those flights in the middle of the night. This is all documented. Now again, when the story first hit, it was crazy conspiracy theory. It's that gaslighting thing. But then when we call them on it, and we have documented proof, oh, well, yeah, we're totally doing that. Oh, you're totally doing that? So you are flooding the country with illegals, and you are specifically instituting an intentional demographic shift by way of race. So that would be a replacement, wouldn't it? Oh my God, crazy conspiracy theory. Don't be gaslit. Don't be gaslit. Take it back to Occam's razor. Bust out Occam's razor and use that motherfucker to shave. Use that motherfucker to shave away the fucking lies. Use that motherfucker to do some trimming of the fat. And get all the extraneous fucking intellectual gymnastic bullshit out of the way. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it wants you dead. As far as the left is concerned, when things are this far out of control, when our basic energy needs cannot be met, when only 2 years ago we were a net exporter, and now, not even 2 years later, we can't even meet our own energy needs. We are telling our own citizens that we have to shift to a green economy while begging OPEC and up until recently Russia to produce more oil, and the media letting and pushing us to forget that only 2 years ago we were a net exporter. Is that an accident? It requires a hell of a lot of assumptions for that to be a fucking accident, doesn't it? Not exactly in line with Occam's razor. Yep. Adding those gymnastics causes hesitation. You're absolutely correct. And you're right, Dick. It's not an accident. At some point, let's say that Biden were still sentient. Let's say that his mind was actually still functioning. At some point, you could take it up to a certain level and chalk it up to incompetence. But I think we all know at this point, he's not the one making the calls. As I've said before, Occam's razor says never chalk up to malice what can be explained away by incompetence. Incompetence would be a man in his 70s, well into early onset dementia, actually being in charge. That would be incompetence. But I think we can reasonably establish that he's not the one making the calls. So if you have people that are capable and are competent and they are making the calls, that leaves one possibility. And that is not incompetence, but intent. Bottom line is this. Yes, they know what they're doing. Yes, there are moneyed and powered interests. There are elites that would like to bend and shape the world into their image. When the globalists are telling you in their own fucking memos, you will own nothing and you will be happy. We are taking advantage of this pandemic because it's a narrow window of opportunity to squeeze through change. Never let a crisis go to waste. When they tell you point blank that what we are lacking is global governance, you take them at their word. Very simple. That is Occam's razor in practice. What is not is the media and propaganda ministries convincing you, oh, well, they said this, but what they actually meant was this, because when taken in context by way of this, and our fact checkers have processed it through this filter and given it the context of this, and then this is what he really meant. That's not simplicity. That's not the simplest of all possible solutions. That is not Occam's razor. By the same token, looking at an incident like Uvalde and the Buffalo shooting, where quite simply it's one guy popping a cork, you have false flags. False flags exist. You know what else exists? False premise. And the false premise observation takes away from the strength of knowing about the false flags. You guys feel me on this? You tracking with me here? A white supremacist in Buffalo, radicalized on the internet, contact with FBI agents. You guys remember the first World Trade Center bombing? You guys remember that? FBI was all over that. You remember every major terror incident the FBI supposedly stopped. Remember the Hotari militia? You remember the kidnapping plot for Gretchen Whitmer? That's got FBI all over it. Better than half of the quote-unquote kidnap plot members were FBI agents or informants. So what's easier to believe? What requires the fewest assumptions? That the FBI deliberately radicalized another guy trying to set up a thing to head it off, and oopsie, it got away from him again? Or that the FBI orchestrated this entire goddamn complicated mess as a false fucking flag to kill a guy that invented a water engine? What requires fewer assumptions about Uvalde? You can have questions. You should have questions. When a part-time burger flipper comes up with the funding to get 2 Daniel Defense AR-15s with high-end glass, or that he would even know about this fucking weapons in the first place. There's plenty of good questions. But what is easier to believe, and what requires fewer assumptions? That it was all some grand goddamn conspiracy, 2 false flags in the span of a week? You don't rule that out, ever. Don't ever rule it out. But what makes more sense and what's easier to believe? Two big orchestrated things in the span of a week, one of which to kill a guy that invented a water engine so his technology wouldn't get out, and the other to cover up a fucking human trafficking, connection in the Rio Grande Valley or in Uvalde. Maybe one dumbass fucking teacher left a door open and some punk ass fucking cops wouldn't pursue. Not because they were there to ramp up the body count for the sake of the gnomes of Zurich and the elders of Zion and the secret Omega concern Council of 12, but because they were fucking cowards. What is easier to believe? About the things that are coming out of Davos, when Klaus Schwab is telling you that he's taking advantage of this crisis to reset the world in his own image? What is easier to believe about the Biden push that white supremacists are fucking domestic terrorists, and then you dig deeper and the fucking numbers don't add up? What's easier to believe? An honest mistake on the numbers, or a deliberate attempt in line with history and every fucking leftist dictatorship that's ever come to power to demonize their political enemies and to use their propaganda ministry to do so? When it comes to these things, don't overblow it. Don't overthink it. Look at it for what it is. Avoid the temptation for intellectual gymnastics to squeeze it into your particular conspiracy box. Boil it down to its lowest common denominator. Money protects money. Power protects power. Take that Occam's razor, shave off the fat, shave off the extraneous ideas, and after you've shaved down all that excess and you make the observation and you look at what they say and you hold up a mirror, or you hold up the tape, or you hold up the flash drive, or you hold up the printed article of them in their own words telling you what intent they have for you, and they turn around and try to gaslight you. Nothing fireproofs an attempt at gaslighting like having the facts. And nothing could be more factual than these people telling you in their own words what their intentions are, where their hatred lies, and the contempt in which they hold every single one of us. There is no dialogue. There is no discourse. But there is no depression either. Because plenty of people are figuring out the simplicity of taking them at their word now. Plenty of them are figuring out that they're being gaslit. And they're ready to strap on that fucking fireproofing. They're ready to wrap themselves up. They're ready to wrap themselves up in some fucking frog gear. Some fucking fire pros. And wade right through that fucking shit. And on the other side of it, they'll be carrying the torch. Taking that information, spreading it to other people. Remember, every one of these fence sitters and every one of these grazers and Pollyannas, when they shake off the fence, it is our side on which they land. So don't get upset. Don't overthink it. Keep in mind that those fence sitters fundamentally are suckers for two things. As I've always said, fundamentally people are suckers for the truth. And fundamentally, they realize what David Lane tried to tell us, that the greatest truths are found in simplicity and brevity. Fundamentally, they realize that. So when you come at them with the super complex, this requires this and this, with all these fucking assumptions that are required and the complexity of this just to pull this fucking off, their eyes glaze over and you fucking lose them. You are doing us a disservice. Keep it simple, because the truth is simple. And believe me, at the end of the day, when you take that truth and it's coming from their own maw, when it's being spewed from their pus-dripping cock holster, the hatred, the disdain, the disgust that they have for each and every one of us, don't overcomplicate it. Don't paint a bigger picture. You let that word stand on its own. You let that word stand on its own. You let the fence sitter see it, and you let them use Occam's razor to cut their own fucking throats. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Appreciate you guys being here. Stay up. Stay up, man. They have begged for this fight for so fucking long. They begged for it. And now it's on them. And they're desperate. I don't have all my music here, but I'm going to close with this one.
This is what you get. This is what you want. This is what you get. This is what you want. This is what you get. This is what you want. This is what you get. This is what you
yeah. This is what you want. This is what you get. But stay up, people. Stay up. Because we're past that tipping point now and we are fucking winning. You understand that? For the first time in decades, we are winning. We are winning the culture war. What did Breitbart tell us? Politics is downstream from culture, and we're winning the culture war now. Do you understand the significance of that? So let's not overcomplicate shit and snatch defeat from the jaws of victory like we've been known to do so many times before when we were right on the edge. Stay moving forward. Keep your eyes up, your forehead down, and those fucking hands guarding the grill, and get ready to knuckle up. That's the fight they asked for. This is what you want. This is what you get. Buzz me up, Dick. Hit me with a message. I'm gonna drop to your Facebook inbox. I'm gonna shoot you my phone number. All right, and yes, we can. Right now, hey brother, I appreciate it. Brother James, Dennis, Brother Dick, Roman, fucking everybody, man. Fucking Brother Ryan, Jeff Truitt, Treasure Monk jumping in at the last minute, man. I love you, brother. I love you all for being here. I'm gonna pass around that little digital collection plate real quick. Into the sermon. If you guys want to chuck me a little something, I'm on PayPal, I'm on Cash App, I'm on Venmo, I'm on Zelle, Facebook Pay, all that good shit. I'm there. Just pass around that little collection plate. If you want to drop me a little coin, that's fucking fantastic. If you can't, I totally get it. It's a Biden fucking economy, man. I get it. A lot of people are broke, and I get that. It's cool. Here's what you can do for me in the meantime. Spread the fucking gospel. If you've got a YouTube channel, tell people about this program. If you're on BitChute or YouTube, subscribe, and like. Smash that fucking like button. Get the fucking algorithm up. Get our face out in front of more people. Spread that gospel for us, man. Use your Facebook page, use your Twitter feed, whatever you got to do to let people know, hey, all of my Reverends, Rangers, my prophets of doom, my sinner sisters out there, let them know. Crane operator with some opinions, this fat, toothless old cripple, getting on ranting and raving for a couple hours every Sunday. He's a like-minded and a kindred spirit, and maybe he's got something to tell you. Tell him about the program. But in the meantime, you can do this for me. Not for me, but more for yourselves. Remember the prime directives. Always remember the prime directives. Be the signal, not the noise. They'll try to bury you with the fucking noise. You gotta cut through that. You gotta be the signal to cut through that noise. Be the light in the darkness. Because they will use that darkness to dehumanize and demoralize and despiritualize you. You gotta be that light. Even if it's coming from anger, that fire burns bright, and that's enough to be a light to cut through the darkness. But the number one thing, the iron rule, in a world full of weakness, you have got to be that strength. And that's not just about this or this. It's about here. And it's about here. You got to keep your skills sharp, you got to keep your mind sharp, and you got to keep moving forward. I love each and every goddamn one of y'all. I really do. I truly do. Appreciate you being here. Your support means the world. Making me feel like less of a lone voice in the wilderness, man. You're making that toothless old cripple feel pretty good about life right now. I'll try to bring that positive energy. You bring that positive energy to me. We will feed off each other's energy. And we will get through this because we're going to fucking win. I love y'all. I'm the Reverend. That is the gospel. See you guys next Sunday. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Talk to each other. Communicate. The world changes. Not through big movements like that, but because those big movements happen because of a million little conversations that it took to get there. So keep that conversation going. Love you guys, man. See you next Sunday. I'm the Reverend. That is the gospel. I'm out. Thank you guys. Love y'all. Fucking mean it. Take care.